As this video comes to a close, I encourage you to stop and have a discussion with the other people in your family, or maybe call someone and have a discussion about this. Pray together that God would make you more bold, that you would be so excited about Jesus that you would want to brag about him, like someone would brag about a product that they enjoy.
Did you hear that? That was a really good message. That was a great sermon.
Yeah, it was such a good sermon. I went out and bought some.
Xander, what are you doing?
Oh, well, Pastor Paul uses cremo cream, and he's a great Christian, and I want to be a great Christian too. So I'm going to use it too.
Wait, that wasn't the point of his message. Did you pay attention?
Yeah, of course I did.
Well, you've got another problem, son. You use an electric razor?
Eh.
Kathy, what are you doing?
Well, I'm using cremo cream. Pastor Paul uses cremo cream, and he's a good Christian. I want to be a good Christian, so I'm using it.
Have you been talking to your son?
Maybe.
I don't think that's toothpaste. As a matter of fact, I know it's not toothpaste. And that wasn't the point of his message. Do we need to listen to his message again?
No, I'm good.
Oh! Jaslyn! Jaslyn, what are you doing?
Well, Pastor Paul uses cremo cream, and he's a good Christian, and I want to be a good Christian, so, I just thought...
No, wait. That wasn't the point of his message. It's about sharing your faith, not just cremo cream, and cremo cream isn't edible. Oh. Hello. Pastor Paul had a great message last Sunday that was about sharing your faith with others, finding ways to plant seed, finding ways to give glory back to God. And it reminded me of a person I read about in Genesis recently. In Genesis chapter 24, it talks about Abraham is looking for a wife for his son Isaac, and he sends his servant. And the funny part is his servant is never named in this whole story, even though he's got a pretty good example for all of us to follow. Abraham asks his servant to go and find a wife for Isaac. And so on his way, the servant, he gets to this other land, and then he stops and he prays. And in chapter 24, up at verse 11 and 12, he says, the servant says this, "O Lord God of my master Abraham, please give me success this day and show kindness to my master Abraham." And then he has this funny specific prayer that he asks. He said, "Let it be that the young woman to whom I say, 'Please let down your pitcher that I may drink,' that that woman would say to me, 'Drink, and I will give your camels a drink also.'" That seemed kind of funny. He was trying to ask for something very specific there so that he'd know which way God wanted him to go. But the Bible goes on. The story says it happened before he, the servant, had even finished speaking. Behold, Rebekah came. Rebekah came with a pitcher on her shoulder, and she said to him, "Drink, my lord." She gave him water. And then when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw water for your camels also." Exactly like the servant had asked. Exactly the sign the servant had prayed for. So the servant, he bows down. It says in verse 26, the man bowed down his head and he worshiped the Lord God. And he said, "Blessed be the Lord God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his mercy and his truth towards my master." So he takes time, he prays, he thanks God, but he's not done. So he goes and he meets Rebekah's family. And when he does, he tells them the whole story. He starts off with what happened with Abraham. He tells about how the Lord God has blessed my master greatly. And he talks about how Abraham and Sarah were able to have a child in their old age. And then now he was looking for a wife for Isaac. He goes on to even tell them what happened this day, that he had stopped, he had prayed. He said, "On this day I came to the well, and I said to the Lord God, 'O Lord, God of my master Abraham, if you will now prosper the way in which I go, and if I ask a woman, please give me a drink from your pitcher, that she would say, drink, and I will also give water to your camels.'" And he goes on to tell them, before I'd even finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebekah coming out with a pitcher on her shoulder. And he tells the story, how Rebekah gave him water, and immediately she offered to water his camels also. And then, as he's speaking with Rebekah and her family now, he goes on to say this, I bowed my head and I worshiped the Lord God, and I blessed the God of my master Abraham, who had led me in the way of truth. Okay, so while he does this, he gives us a good example. This servant who's never named in the Bible, but I think he gives me a pretty good example and reminds me of what Pastor Paul was teaching, that we need to find opportunities to share our faith, opportunities to sing the praises and to tell the stories of how God has taken care of us, how God has blessed us or answered prayers. So if you go back in this story and think about this as an example for all of us, first, pray to God about anything. God says to pray to him about anything, but then also trust God, trust in God, place your trust in God, that when he does answer your prayer, be ready to move, be ready to answer. So pray, then trust in God. And then what was next? Thank God. He immediately, when the prayers are answered, he stops, he bows down and thanks God. We've talked about that in our family. One time I talked about memory stones at church. It's that idea of going back and seeing when God has answered your prayers, we need to thank God for it. We need to stop what we're doing and not just think, oh, that worked out well. No, we need to stop and thank God. And then what does he do? The servant finds a way to share the good news. He shares how God has blessed him, shares how God has answered his prayer. I think that's pretty good. Think of those 4 steps. Pray to God, trust in God, take time to stop and thank God, and then share the good news. Go and share with others how God has blessed you, answered your prayers, taken care of you. Take time to find an opportunity. What Pastor Paul talked about. Look for those opportunities in life. Friendships you have, people you work with. Anytime that you see God has blessed you and answered a prayer, to tell them how great God is. Because he's a great God. And we need to take time to thank him and share his praises. Give glory back to God.
Oh, Dad? I think Tabby's getting a hairball.
Don't worry. I'm coming.